Well, hello and welcome to the Northwood University webinar series. I'm Christopher Deming, and today I have the singular honor of presenting Professor Emeritus Jeff Phillips. Jeff spent a great 42 years at Northwood University with a remarkable career, with a great many of them spent as the department chair of our English department here at Northwood. Today he will be presenting Gumptionology, when life ceases to amaze you. So, a couple housekeeping items before we begin. As usual, if you have any questions, you can place them in the Q&A tab on the right-hand side. We will get to as many as we can at the end of today's presentation. After today's presentation, you will be receiving a survey. We encourage you to fill that out. We will use those to help guide our programming in the future. Beyond that, you will also receive a copy of these slides and a recording of this session. So if you have to step out for any reason, don't worry, you will receive a recording. So without any further delay, please welcome Professor Jeff Phillips.
Here I am. Hooray. There it is. Hello, everybody. I'm masking up because I've heard there is a computer virus that can be spread. But it's also fogging up my glasses, so I will probably just take this off. See how difficult it is? Hard times living in a pandemic. So welcome to my my fallout shelter. Been living here for about 3 years. It's in Deep 13, for those of you who want directions on how to get here. Not really up to personal visits yet, but what the heck, we can do this long distance. Basically, as a kid, I grew up watching Soupy Sales on Saturdays much of the time, and it was always lunch with Soupy Sales. And I thought, when Julie and Chris contacted me to do this presentation, I thought, well, I guess I'm Soupy Sales. So I've got my Mork and Mindy lunchbox, and it's filled with all kinds of goodies and things. So pull up a sandwich, sit down, relax. I think we're roaring to go. Maybe you felt a little hemmed in lately. There seems to be a fair amount of stress that people have been going through. So I decided, well, let's talk about Gumptionology. And Gumptionology is this really wonderful old Scottish word, which actually started from the Greek. The Greek root of the whole idea was Enthusiasmos, which I think you can probably see basically translates into enthusiasm. So when someone is filled with gumption, they're filled with enthusiasm. They're filled with joy. And they take a look at life and look at life in general and see it as basically a positive endeavor. It's to be enjoyed, not to be endured. And gumption usually sounds like stick-to-it-tiveness or some sort of initiative or drive. It's like persistence, Peloton. Keep going. So the key idea here is that sometimes life sends us a little message here and there, and it's odd, it's strange. We don't really know how to deal with it. But I want to clear up one big misnomer. That's my dog. You can probably hear him. He's down here in Deep 13 as well. My retirement 3 years ago did not trigger COVID-19. I just happened to retire, and then it happened. And it happened a short time after retirement. Retirement taught me how to find a whole new rhythm to life, because I wasn't getting up every morning and going to Northwood and talking to people who may or may not be listening. So decided, what the heck, let's Let's make sure that life continues to go on. And that's what Gumptionology is. Life throws you a curve. You have to learn a new kind of presence of mind. You have to find a new rhythm to establish, and consequently, find it with enthusiasm. I'm going to rely on my moderator, Chris, here to help me with some of the slides. I've got a handful of slides here, and here's the first one. Thought we'd start off with something kind of slow, very simple. Buddha. Okay. Buddha said those who are awake live in a constant state of amazement. And that's what gumption is. Constant amazement. Life amazes us, surprises us, does all these strange things. And if we don't have the enthusiasmos, well, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Now, take, for example, the word enthusiasmos. Technically, if you break it down, enthusiasmos literally means filled with theos. For those of you who don't speak Greek, I don't. I never joined a fraternity or a sorority, although I was advisor to a couple. The Greek enthusiasmos literally means filled with theos, and theos means basically the spirit of a godly entity. So enthusiasmos is filled with God. So when you're filled with the spirit of spirituality, when you're filled with God, you can add another O to it. You know, if the concept of God doesn't appeal to you, or you prefer to think in more secular terms, add an O to God. Don't call it Godo, call it good. And that's basically what enthusiasmos is. Filled with good. Now, of course, good basically implies a certain level of quality. And for those of you who spent more than 2 minutes in my time, if you were ever at Northwood or anywhere else, you've probably heard me talk about Robert Pirsig. Robert Pirsig wrote a book a number of years ago. I just happen to have a copy here. Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Kind of hollow, because this is a slipcase. The book itself is really nothing to look at, except it's autographed. Autographed edition of Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. This is when I first got filled with enthusiasmos. So, Pirsig says, along the same lines as Buddha, that when we are awake, when we are actively involved in the process of living, we're going to be constantly amazed. Chris, could we go to the next slide, please? Chris, could we go to the next slide, please? Thank you, Chris, for going to the next slide. This is one of my favorite quotes drawn from Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And for those of you who haven't read the book, you really should, because it's an absolutely fantastic book that talks about what it is to live a life of internal motivation. And that's what we're going to talk about in conjunction with Gumption today. How to be internally motivated rather than externally motivated. And it all starts with peace of mind. Okay, I'll show you my shirt. Yeah, this is my Christmas sweater. The Dude Abides. And another person, another film rather, that you may have seen in your spare time, The Big Lebowski, is probably my favorite movie of all time because of its philosophy. The dude is a character who basically aspires to peace of mind, tries to let very little get to him. And so consequently, peace of mind is a prerequisite for quality. If we're going to do quality in our lives, if we're going to do a quality job, and I apologize because I'm going to use that word a lot, but it's just an absolutely fantastic philosophical notion to gird your life on. When you achieve peace of mind, you're capable of making quality in whatever you do because you're enthusiastic about it. You're passionate about it. And I apologize. I don't like it when people read to me from a PowerPoint, but I found a slide that actually has the PowerPoint in it, or has the quote in it. So here it is. Peace of mind isn't at all artificial or superficial, really. It's the whole thing. That which produces it is good maintenance. What we call workability of the machine is just an objectification of peace of mind. The ultimate test is always your own serenity. If you don't have this when you start and maintain it when you're working, you're likely to build your personal problems right into the machine itself. This is why Pirsig says assembly of a motorcycle takes great peace of mind. How many of you, I know you can't respond really, but what the heck, how many of you may have children running around in your background? If you have children of your own, or you've had people come over and bring their children, you recognize that there is a lot of baggage that children bring. It's wonderful baggage, but they want Barbie's dream house. They want Castle Grayskull and things like that for Christmas. And so consequently, if you've ever had a child and you were perpetuating this wonderful belief in Santa, well, that meant you had to get up at 4 o'clock on Christmas morning and put together Castle Grayskull and Barbie's dream house. So it would be magically, these two things would be magically shown under the tree, the kids would go crazy, and you'd be considered a good parent. Now, if you have peace of mind when you're putting together Castle Grayskull, it's a very simple and direct approach. Everything fits together. If you're a man, you probably don't use the instructions because instructions are just suggestions, and we're too smart for that sort of thing. But basically, the whole idea is you're going to jam this thing together, basically on instinct. And when you find that flange A does not actually fit flange B, you may be working on poor maintenance. You go, it's got to fit somehow. I got to get this to fit. And so you start pressing the two flanges together. They're supposed to go together, doggone it. I mean, those silly Japanese people, whatever they're doing, they were supposed to give us something that we could put together, very simply. But in our egotism, we just keep pushing and pushing until we hear this really rotten word that kind of comes out of nowhere. It's called snap. Okay, now get Castle Grayskull's big opening bridge won't open. And you start finding other pieces that won't fit. You find your peace of mind leaving immediately. If you're still in college and you take yes, my dog is getting upset. If you're in college and you're taking a test, you can get into a lot of self-abuse. Start smacking yourself in the head. Come on, I know this. You don't have peace of mind anymore. But let's look at something that Lena Horne said. She said, it's not the load that breaks you down. It's how you carry it. And that's a really important idea. The pandemic is terrible. We're seeing deaths, and yet we don't seem to be in control. And the loss of control is very scary. And so we lose the peace of mind. We find that little things bother us that haven't bothered us in the past. Isolation is not fun. Social distancing and not being able to touch one another is not fun. And so it strips us of our peace of mind. Unless we have gumption. When we have gumption, we continue to forge forward. We don't think in terms of negativism. As I said countless times before, 77% of what we think on a daily basis is negative. And if you're the average person, by the time you've turned 18, you've heard the word no or not 147,000 times. Now, that's a pretty persuasive argument for belief. If you don't believe you can do something, you won't do it. And that strips your peace of mind. So Felix Adler said something that I thought was absolutely brilliant. He said, a hero, and now we're thinking of ourselves now, if we're in a positive frame of mind. We don't want to think of ourselves as heroes because those are extraordinary people. And God knows we're not extraordinary. We're just ordinary. But under Gumption, we become heroes. And Felix Adler said a hero is someone who knows a great light and kindles a great light in the world. A person who sets up blazing torches in the dark streets of life for people to see by. Now think of that. You have the potential to go out there, develop peace of mind, and then spread it outward. You have this tremendous ability to help other people achieve things that they are capable of achieving, even if they don't know it. Now, I recognize this is a whole lot of abstract theory. And I've got so much time and so little to say. No, Willy Wonka, stop. Reverse that. It would seem now that this would be a good time to have a word from our sponsor. We're sponsored today by Borden's. And if we can go to Chris, if you would start up that commercial, we'll get moving right along. And it sounds like we don't have any sound. You want me to narrate it? We're talking about popsicles. The great little treat that comes on a stick. When I was a kid, I loved fudgicles and popsicles, and I always thought, oh, this is life. This is enthusiasm. I have peace of mind. Look, here's Elsie. She's even got peace of mind, and the kids are chowing down like crazy. How exciting. So, at the end of the presentation today, go out and get a popsicle. If you have kids, give them a popsicle. It's good for you, and it's from Borden's. Isn't that kind? Okay, let's go to our next slide. And here we are. During the pandemic, my wife, who has spent the last 3 years staring only at this face, so please, keep her in your prayers. She looked at this and she said, yeah, that's about the way the pandemic's going. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Well, I'm glad to be with my wife, actually. I think it's absolutely terrific. But here's a little point to make. If we could go to the next one. We have a peace of mind or pieces of mind. This is the Zen version of Where's Waldo? Okay, think about that. Waldo has peace of mind. Notice he's got the little lotus tree and so on and so forth, and the bird over on the corner and so forth. Too many people today, though, have pieces of mind. And the sad thing is, we're very quick, especially now when our tempers are dwindling. We're very quick to go to people and say, let me give you a piece of my mind. Well, let's be honest, you don't have enough mind to break off into little pieces and give away. We want to maximize our mind. So we want peace of mind. We want wholeness. We want quality. But it's rather unfortunate when I retired in 2018, shortly before I did, I gave a talk. And that morning, I had seen on the Today Show a small news blip, about one of the biggest problems students in college had. On the Today Show poll, students claimed that 80% of every day they spent being stressed out. This is before the pandemic. This is like 2 years before the pandemic. And we went into 2020, which was not favored with hindsight, and which we really just want to forget about. It was a real test of our gumption. 80% of the people in non-COVID times were stressed out, spent their days being stressed out. Can you imagine what happened once isolationism hit? Chris, could we go to the next one, please? So I want to talk to you just for a few minutes about a friend of mine. This is a guy who worked in corporate America, but before corporate America, he worked in the Army. His name was Ed. He was a CPO during World War II, fighting the German SS. And during the war, he traveled northeast and then southeast, and he saw most of the world from a carpool. Now, I want you to keep that guy in mind for a couple minutes. Okay? Ed, CPO, who was fighting the German SS, went northeast, southeast, and saw the war from a carpool. Okay. Now, Richard Deschamps said there are basically two kinds of people in the world. There are people who are known as pawns, and there are people who are known as origins. Now, a person who is a pawn finds it very difficult to find peace of mind. Basically, this person is externally motivated, going to rely on other people to tell him or her exactly how he or she should feel, how he or she should think. They're very quick to say things like, oh, you shouldn't think that way. Evidently, they have great knowledge within themselves that they're ready to impart with other people because they're superior to everyone else. These people who are pawns feel forced to act. They don't have freedom of will, basically, but they feel pressured on every single count to move forward or do something. The consequences are not really a source of pride for them. They're not happy. They find that life is one long, boring subway ride to hell. And it's to be endured, not to be enjoyed. And so basically, when it comes to long-term goals, they have none. So we're going to juxtapose the pawns with the origins. Origins are people who basically feel that they direct the course of their own lives. They're always open to opportunity. They're open. They're receptive. They're interested in actions becoming a positive result. You may remember our friend Dr. Haywood, who always said, always look to give things a positive spin. Dale Haywood is the only man I ever knew who never had a bad day in his life. I was walking across campus one day. I was flooded. It was raining. It was terrible. I was sopping wet. And Dale was holding the door open for me. And I ran in and I just kind of brushed myself off. And I said, Dale, have you ever had one of those days where nothing goes right? It was kind of in the pawn thought process. Dale, who's in the origins process, said, no, can't say that I ever have had a bad day. I relegate those to other people. And I thought, wow, I need this shit. Haywood's never had a bad day. But it made me think, how many days did I allow to become bad days because of the way I was thinking? So I'd rather be a person who values consequences as important. And basically, we're going to carefully consider what our goals are. Our big goal right now is to change the slide, because now we'll go through Ed's life. Ed stands for evaluative behavior versus descriptive behavior. Evaluative behavior is behavior of the pawn. Look, son, an idiot. These people are incredibly judgmental, and basically sometimes comes from the way they've been raised. Think about this. If you were raised in a positive environment, maybe you didn't hear no 148,000 times, you only heard it 100,000 times, or maybe 50,000 times. But maybe you were raised with parents who raised you this way. My mother taught me to appreciate a job well done. If you're going to kill each other, do it outside. I just finished cleaning. My mother taught me religion. You better pray that that stain will come out of that carpet. My mother taught me about time travel. If you don't straighten up, I'm going to knock you into the middle of next week. My mother taught me about contortionism. Will you look at the dirt on the back of your neck? My mother taught me about weather. It looks like a tornado just swept through your room. I swear I have never seen a more ugly pigsty in my life. My mother taught me about envy. There are millions of less fortunate children in the world who don't have wonderful parents like you do. My mother taught me to think ahead. If you don't pass your spelling test, you'll never get a good paying job. My mother taught me humor. When the lawnmower cuts off your toes, don't you come running to me. And above all, my mother taught me about justice. One day you'll have kids, and I hope they turn out just like you. Now, that's what we call evaluative behavior. You, followed by an accusatory verb, you forgot, you didn't, and so on and so forth, is really wonderful pawn behavior. We're going to find the faults in everybody else, but never see any in ourselves. To build gumption, flip the card. Be descriptive. Hey guys, if everybody could stop being triggered by microaggressions. Yeah. Great. Describe what you feel, not what other people have caused. Gosh, this makes me feel happy. Oh, this makes me feel sad. I feel so frustrated. Not, you frustrate me. Rather than being evaluative, be descriptive. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. Pawns are interested in control. They have to be in control. They are anal retentives. They want to do things, and they want to cause other people's action. On the other hand, problem orientation says, let's not focus on the people, let's focus on the issue. How was your break? Mending nicely, thank you. Enjoy your break. Oh, this is going to be hard. This is going to be, I'm in control. You do what I say. It's authoritarianism. What we have in problem orientation, focusing a little bit more on the positive outcome of our actions. Let's go to the next one. We're halfway there. And it's fading. There we are. Strategy. The GIF file's moving a little slow, but strategy, no. I'm going to manipulate you. I'm going to get you to do what I want you to do. I am controlling your action. Versus spontaneity, which basically says, no, I'm going to do things spontaneously. I'm going to follow through on my own goals. I'm not going to rely on other people to tell me what needs to be done, what I have to do, and so on and so forth. I'm going to chart the course of my own life, cutting the strings that other people are giving me. The worst thing you can do is to demean yourself or say, I wish I were like somebody else. I want to be like so-and-so. That wastes the person you are. Spontaneity and gumption say, never forsake yourself or somebody else. Don't let other people compare you to other people. You're unique. You're an island universe. And nothing will ever replace you. So luxuriate in the individuality that you hold. Let's go to our next one. I'm speeding up now because our time is quickly diminishing. Neutrality, not caring, apathy, when everybody in real life is boring because your crippling anxiety is preparing you for unspeakable horrors. I've seen people say things like, well, it's just too nice out today. What a great way to think. It's too nice. Versus empathy. Ovis says, everything's fine. Really. America is going on a positive stream. We're facing problems. We're facing issues. But the best thing we can do is develop empathy for one another. We've seen too many killings perpetuated by neutrality or by, this punish charge when we should be developing empathy, caring, and putting ourselves in other people's shoes. The word quality actually came from the word charis, another Greek word, which you might see as basis for charisma. Charis means care. Character comes from charis. Take care out of character, and all you're left with are actors. Learn to empathize. Next one. Our next one is very easy to spot. Superiority. Well, I've had enough morons and dimwits, dolts and dunces, dullards and dumbbells. These people are very quick to put down the people that they work with. These are the people who are going to spend all their time and all their energy worrying about what other people think of them. And they're going to put them down for it. Look at Mr. Rogers. Arguably one of the greatest peak performers of all time. It's not so much what we have in this life that matters. It's what we do with what we have. I'd like to be his neighbor. Because we're equal. Because we've got unique talents that bring us together. Let's go to our next. Certainty. Now you might notice I'm kind of partial to these guys. If you've ever seen The Big Lebowski, Walter is certain. He's very quick to judge. He's very quick to pull out a gun and point it in somebody's face because he's certain that he's right and everybody else is stupid. The dude, on the other hand, believes in provisionalism. It's just like your opinion, man. Notice it's descriptive. He doesn't judge. He just says, yeah, well, that's your opinion. We can get along with one another by simply listening and then moving on. So let's move on. Here's our last element, Brought to you by Eskimo Pies. It would be so nice if you could hear this. We recognize now, of course, with political correctness, that Eskimo pie is really politically incorrect. But it's a darn tasty treat, if you ask me. So here we are. You can see it wearing the label quality. Quality. Eskimos the pie carries the pledge of quality right on the back of the bag. Be sure you save your bags for real special premiums. And you can get it at our refreshment stand right now. It's America's finest. It's delicious. Which then brings us right down to the end. Ending as we begin. Peace of mind produces right values. Right values produce right thoughts. Right thoughts produce right actions, and right actions produce work which will be a material reflection for others to see of the serenity at the center of it all. Robert Pirsig. Kind of partial to that guy. Let me leave you real quickly with the 4 gifts of leadership. Number 1, if you are an origin, if you're not a pawn, if you have gumption. I should say when you have gumption. Number 1, the greatest gift of leadership is love. It's compassion, it's caring, it's doing things with an eye on quality, first and foremost. Second gift of leadership is power. The power of autonomy, the power of influence, positive influence. The third is authorship. When you're a leader, you allow people to bring value to their craft. Northwood was very big on saying value added. Value is another word for quality. And finally, the greatest gift of leadership is a feeling of significance. Common spirit. We're united. We are working together. We create together. And with all of these 4, we can make a better world. Pirsig said, place to improve the world is first in your own heart and head and hands, then move outward from there. Chris, if we could get our last slide. I really appreciate your kind attention. You've been good people. You'll continue to be good people. Be well, be blessed, as the Simpsons tell us. Do it for her, whoever she may be. Might be your spouse. She might be your boss. She might be yourself. Interchangeable pronouns are perfectly adaptable here. Do it for him, do it for her. Our very last slide. And our very last slide wishes you well. Last slide. If a lot of people loved each other, the world would be a better place to live. That's Tommy Wiseau. I'm Jeff Phillips. Thanks again. Be blessed. God love you.
Sorry, I was struggling to get off the screen share. Thank you so much, Jeff. It's always just a wonderful pleasure to have you speak to people today. As a reminder to folks, if you do have questions for Jeff, I know we're running a little bit long than our usual program, but I promise you it was worth every minute. So if you have questions you'd still like them to submit, please use the Q&A tab on the right. And I gotta say, Professor Phillips, we have one question right off the bat. Professor Phillips, are you wearing your white pants today?
Oh yeah, big time. Absolutely.
Promised and delivered.
Yes.
I got just for the curiosity, do you have an estimate on the number of those you've had over the years, or is it the same pair?
Oh, it's the same pair. I just keep washing them every day. No, no, no,
That's good.
not really. No, I probably had. They've been getting very difficult to find lately. But I'd say probably 2 dozen, something like
Oh,
that.
all right. We have a question from Bryce Rucker. Professor, this
Oh,
is
right.
awesome. You've spent a lot of time talking about the ways we should think, i.e., be descriptive, not evaluative, be spontaneous, not strategic. What lesson from Persig or from yourself would you provide for how to move and orient ourselves toward these ideals?
Bryce, it's great to hear from you. Bryce is one of my brothers from way back. Bryce, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it all starts right up here in the mind with our thinking. It means turning around our thinking and remembering that self-talk is word, picture, action. We have the power to give meaning to those words, and those words, if we give them, when we give them positive connotations, we dispel or hit the delete button when people start talking about negative things. We don't have to tap into that. It's all based in how we think. And if you're one of the, I know you're not, but some people might be part of the 77% negativism on a daily basis. Some people have a lot more, especially during the pandemic. But the key is to keep the focus. Keep the focus on the positive blessings. I used to talk about bags. A bag. Look what's in your bag. Everybody's carrying baggage. Blessings, achievements, and goals. Keep your eye on blessings, achievements, and goals, and then ask yourself how you can give those to other people to inspire them. We're running way over time, I know, I apologize. But take good care of yourself, as well as everybody else. Yeah.
We have, I think, time for just one more question. I do apologize for those who are putting in great comments. And if you want to send a nice message to Professor Phillips in the chat, we will be sure to forward the chat on to him so he will receive your message. So thank you again. Final question. Rachel Barnes asks, when the weight of the world is truly heavy on your shoulders, what do you do to maintain that inner peace of mind? That has been a struggle during these times.
I think it has been for just about everyone. I've found it very, very good to limit my intake of news broadcasts. I'll watch highlights and so forth, but I don't want to sit down and watch the whole thing because it's just peppered with negativism. The big thing is go back to blessings. Look around you. Rachel, I know you've got two little people who are, spectacular human beings. And I know sometimes, occasionally, you will beat yourself up, but you needn't beat yourself up because you're just an absolutely amazing parent. You're not like the woman who bickered and made people feel bad. The big thing is control your blessings. Concentrate on how you've been blessed. It's always easy to find something negative and something positive. Just look around you. Michigan's slogan, if you seek a beautiful peninsula, look around you. Too often, we're looking too much inside and dwelling on a shame spiral, which starts out with shame, and that goes to anger, and that becomes angst. So Turn it around to your self-talk. Always think in terms of how lucky you are to have a home, to have a family. Put this in perspective. If you have food in the refrigerator, clothes on your back, a roof overhead, and a place to sleep, you are richer than 75% of the people in the world. If you have money in the bank, in your wallet, and spare change in a dish somewhere, you're among the top 8% of the world's wealthy. If you woke up this morning with more health than illness, you are blessed, more than the million who will not survive this week. If you have never experienced the danger of battle, loneliness of imprisonment, the agony of torture, or the pangs of starvation, you're ahead of 500 million people in the world. If you can attend a church meeting without fear of harassment, arrest, torture, or death, you're more blessed than 3 billion people in the world. If you hold your head up with a smile on your face and are truly thankful, you are blessed because the majority can, but they don't. If you can hold someone's hand, hug them, or even touch them on the shoulder, you are blessed because you can offer a healing touch. Make today a good day, count your blessings, and pass this along to anyone who needs to be reminded that they're blessed. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Chris Deming had to step away, so I'm just going to close it out today. And I just want to say thank you to Professor Phillips, and thank you to all of you for joining us today. We will send an email to you this afternoon with the PowerPoint and the recording, and like Chris mentioned, we'll send all of the chat over to you so Professor Phillips can see all of your positive comments. So thank you, and hopefully we'll see you next month for our webinar.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Chris.